at RAGT23 with one of my new best friends, TJ Logan, because I love your books, and we just seem to agree on everything, and you're fun to talk to.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been a joy, and I feel honored.
Yeah, as well you should. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That was
she
just
paid
for
me
fun.
to say that, just FYI.
So you just had a new one out. Tell us about, well, first of all, you can talk about the O'Hallorans, because I've read every one of them. Some of them early because you were kind enough to send them to me.
Yeah.
Because I read the first one and just loved the series.
Thank you.
Loved the big, strong, buff, capable, take care of everyone guys.
Yeah.
And then the smart women you pair them with.
Yeah.
And I love that it's like a family enterprise.
Right.
So.
Yeah. The O'Hallorans are this big Irish family, and there's 5 brothers and 1 sister. I grew up with 5 brothers, so there might be a
There's
parallel
no reality
there.
in there, yeah.
No. Well, my brothers aren't all big, huge alpha guys, though. So,
okay.
But they're very, very. Their credo is family, honor, loyalty in that order, and they always have each other's backs. They started this securities firm, and they do all types of security, cybersecurity, bodyguards, close protection, international rescue stuff. And the women, the 5 older brothers books, the women that they're with range from a woman who's never had a family, who just wants to have babies, which is awesome, but she's very strong, to forensic pathologists, to interrogation tactics specialists from the NSA. So these are very strong women who challenge them, and which
with
is
very
perfect.
Specialized skills.
Very, very specialized.
And you give them all the best equipment.
Yeah, because it's fiction. I can do that. I can make stuff up, But yeah, I come from a very male-dominated background. My brothers are all very high achieving. I've got former Marines, several of them. I've got former FBI tactical dog handlers. I've got, Blue Angel pilots. I've never told you about that one. Blue Angel pilots. I've got, so I've got all these overachieving brothers that give me great fodder for books, and they're a great resource. And when I'm writing my books, and when I'm talking to people for research purposes, I have this font of resources. I'm very fortunate, and I will sit down with them and I will ask them things, obviously about the technical aspects of, weaponry, which I'm familiar with anyway, but I always talk to them about like the physiological responses their bodies are having, or what's going through their head at the moment they get ready to breach a room, and I try to put that in these stories, because these are human beings and they have human emotions, and you want to wrap their experiences around those. You want to wrap their emotions around everything they're experiencing.
Which makes them so real.
Right. You want them to be real. It's fiction, but it has to be believable fiction. You have to believe that they're not superheroes. They can be hurt. My first book, the secondary character is one of the brothers, and he's just recovering from being shot in the shoulder. He's on forced medical leave from the Bureau. His canine partner was killed. And so he's in a recovery phase. So they're human beings. They have human weaknesses and human strengths. And then there's this family element that ties them all together. And it's not just the biological family. It's the people that work with them, their teammates. They are a family. So the first 8 books revolve around this growing family that all are encompassed within the O'Halloran world.
Because the O'Halloran mom and dad raised some phenomenal kids.
Yeah, they did. Well, their parents are, they grew up with a classic sort of nurturing mother. She worked for the family business. The O'Halloran patriarch, Micheline, is a commercial construction guy, loves working with his hands. He does a lot of woodwork. He makes furniture for his kids. He loves making Adirondack chairs, so they all have Adirondack chairs at their house.
I know, I want one.
Yeah, I know, me too. I got to find somebody who could do that. But they're both, but he's very wise, and he's very open to his kids. He's not one of those sort of old school dads that's like, oh, we don't talk about our emotions here, son. I mean, there's one book in book 3, I think the first book you read, the one whose wife died during childbirth. I'm not giving anything away, by the way. And he has this sort of come to Jesus moment on this bluff in this blowing storm, and his son is feeling guilty because he was away when his wife died. He didn't know all these things, and he basically just smacked him upside the head. He's like, you've got this beautiful baby girl, because he wasn't letting himself get close to this baby because he was afraid he was going to lose her too. And he told, the dad just smacked him with some tough love and said, you're going to end up losing everything that it's
tough
important
love's the
to you.
best kind.
Right. But it's realistic too. He kind of leaves him with this truth and turns and walks away and lets him kind of stew in his own thoughts. But
and it helps that they respect their mom and dad so
yes,
much. So when they give them advice,
correct.
it's really impacts
right. They
them.
take exactly, and their parents aren't. They're not, always just jumping in, throwing out advice to their kids. When they see one of their kids struggling and hurting, that's when the mother will step in, and they don't do it just with their blood children. They also do it with the spouses that can be like the heroine in the first book. She's never had a family before. So at the end of the book, in the hospital, the whole family shows up and she just loses it because now she's got this huge family. Mm-hmm. So that's the core element of all of my stories is family, whether it's biological family or whether it's the team of operators that depend on each other and have to have each other's backs at all times.
Right.
What more strong commitment can you get from somebody than knowing they're willing to put their life down for you? There's not a whole lot more that speaks to commitment like that does.
That's the kind of alpha take care of people that I really, really enjoy.
Yeah. That's why I write them, because that's what I like too.
Me too. Yeah, that's why I said when I first read it, it's like, yes, this is what I love reading.
Yeah, that was me. I started reading Lori's books. I was late to the romance reading game. I literally was in my early 50s and Lori's books were some of the first that I read, and I was like, okay, I like these books. These are really good. And the romance was there, but it wasn't just that. It was the action, it was the emotion, it was the human connections that kind of was like, And then over the course of a couple of years, I started thinking, I want to try this, and see if I can do this. So
that's sort of how it worked for me too. But for me, it was reading Linda Howard. Sylvia Day and I were just talking about her. And
yes,
I remember Linda Howard saying that she never had just a romance.
Yeah.
She always had other stuff going on. And I said, I guess that's what drew me so much.
Yeah.
I loved all the other stuff going on with it.
Right. I agree. I love Linda Howard. I love her. And Sandra Brown, I went through a real big Sandra Brown phase. And I was just saying to Patty and
it's so funny because we're saying the same things that Sylvia Day and I were talking about, the authors we love.
Yeah, well, I was just talking to PJ and Val just a few minutes before we came in, and I was saying that one of the highest compliments I've ever gotten was when somebody compared one of my books to a Sandra Brown book. And I was like, I am totally going to have this engraved on a plaque somewhere, and I'm going to hang it somewhere, because it was a big deal to me. Because that was almost like, okay, you've arrived, you've written a story people care about, because they're comparing you to somebody of that caliber. So unfortunately my sales didn't reflect that, but that was fine.
That leads into the first reader question. And I know readers don't always see the reality of the author industry for what it is. So they said you're a not that this doesn't. You're a successful, popular indie author. Why did you choose this publishing path instead of going the traditional route? And that's where I'm saying where they might not realize sometimes we don't have choices.
Right. Well, honestly, when I first started writing, I think I first started writing in 2012. And it was all about trad, because indie was still sort of in its infancy at that point. And all I focused on was submitting to traditional publishers. That was it. I spent 2.5 years submitting manuscripts or whatever.
It's a grueling process when you're a new author.
Well, and what's really interesting is, there are these big writer conferences. Well, there used to be. They don't have as many of them anymore. And you would go and you have an opportunity to pitch to an editor and agent. And it was like 5 minutes. And it was like, I equate it to speed dating. It's kind of like, hi, my name is so-and-so, and this is what I do, and how about you?
Well, you do talk fast, so it probably worked well for you.
Well, especially when I talk about my books.
Yeah.
But anyway, so for me, I played that game for 2.5 years, and then it was actually Roxanne St. Clair. I was having lunch with her one day, because she was a member of our writer group in Florida. And she looked at me and she goes, wait a minute. She's very direct. And she says, wait a minute, you have 3 books done. She goes, why aren't they published? And I said, well, I've been trying to. And she goes, no. Why don't you publish them? Do rapid release. And she's like throwing me into this marketing plan. And I'm just like, I haven't had them edited yet.
Yeah.
And she's like, no. By next February, you need to, and she's like throwing all these.
But that was what you needed, maybe.
But it was funny.
Yeah.
It is exactly what I needed, because I realized that whatever I was writing didn't speak to I always got requested when I pitched. They always said, yes, send me your manuscript, or send me 3 chapters, or, and they would say, put this in the subject line. So I do read it, because that's how many they get every day.
Yeah. And
I would always get a positive response back, but that was it. It never went any further than that. So, and then I realized, you know what? Rocky's right. So I did. I educated myself on indie publishing and what was involved, just the technical aspects of it. And I put my books in KU in 2019 in August, and then the next one in September, and the next one in August, September, and September and October. And I rapid released the 3 books, and then I had to write the rest. It was like, oh, well, I better write the rest of them now too.
So
yeah, but that was really, it wasn't a choice I made. It was, yes, it was, but it was sort of a forced choice. Like, my books were just sitting there, and I knew there were people who might want to read them. At least I hope there was. So it was frustrating that I kept getting these letters that were so positive and so this, but nothing came of it.
Well, and the reason for that is because they get inundated with material sent to them.
Exactly.
But now I don't think it's quite that way so much, because indie publishing is such a viable option.
Yeah,
Whereas, like you said, back then, it was still sort of
Correct.
new. I feel really smart that at this event we always welcomed indie authors.
Yeah, yep, very much so, very much so.
She says, do your characters ever ask you to change your mind about something you have planned for them?
No, God. Yeah.
I mean, are you a plotter or are you a pantser?
Oh, I'm a pantser. Yeah. I mean, big time pantser.
So they just tell you as you go
along. I kind of know the high points, like, okay, well, this guy is going to die. And sometimes it's like, oh, no, he needs to die too. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kill that guy too. But how am I going to kill him? What have I not done yet? It's like, but no, your characters, when you're a pantser, it's a fancy word for I make it up as I go. You know your characters. I think I know my main characters pretty well. They're pretty developed in my brain. But secondary characters, I can tell you right now, the heroine in the book I'm writing right now, I had no idea that she was going to be a character in the book. And the next thing I know, my heroine had a best friend named Marigold, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, I guess Marigold's
But as soon as I read her, I knew she needed a book.
Yeah, exactly. I wrote her, and I was like, how did I not know that this person was going to have a story?
Especially once you name someone Marigold.
I know.
Then you know there's got to be a link.
I have a brand new grandniece.
You throw,
who's named
Pat
Marigold.
or something on the
I know, exactly. Some name that nobody will remember.
Yeah.
But no, I have a grandniece whose name is Marigold. But they call her Goldie, and I'm like, no, I'm calling her Marigold, because it's just such a cute name.
It is very cute, yeah.
But no, my characters, they oftentimes will surprise me, and I'll be like, okay, I guess we're doing this right now. All right, sure, we'll do that. Or I have a character who has an affinity for a certain type of weapon or something that I didn't know. It's like, all right, he prefers the blade, or she prefers this, or whatever. I have a sniper in one of my books. Her name is Calliope, and
I love that name too.
She looks like a cheerleader. I think I put in the book that she looks like the cheerleader at the top of the pyramid. She's little, short, stocky, strong, and she's a sniper, and her rifle is almost as big as she is. So
she's very badass.
Yeah, she is. But she's also cutesy, and so you underestimate
I'm gonna go
her.
Kill someone now.
Yeah. She wears her hair in pigtails, and it's an intentional choice that she makes. I mean, she's very bubbly in that way, but she also talks smack with the guys. Lucas, the guy.
She fits in very well.
Lucas, the guy in my book, he was another one of those. This like, I just need a guy that's going to provide him with a helicopter in Colombia. So, let's name him Lucas.
Yeah.
And he and Calliope started, like he made some line about, oh, she's the cyclic's a little stiff when you blah, blah, blah. And she yells out from the other side of the tarmac, oh, that's what he said, And so all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I guess now Lucas and Calliope have to have a book together. So
it's so
there
much
we go.
fun when that happens, though.
And then, I'm not going to give away the twist, but anyway, so so Lucas and Calliope will be the second book in the spinoff.
So after the one I just read?
No. I'm working on Viking and Marigold's story.
Oh, okay,
right
that's
now.
right. Yeah.
And then Lucas and Calliope, and then Hawk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it all planned out. I bet they might switch up.
Well, that's as far as the planning goes. Don't ask me any more details than that, because I literally have none. I just know.
This is the other question someone just asked, which I think, because you and I talk often enough, I think I already know the answers to this. It said, is it hard to keep ideas for new books from interfering with your current work? And I don't think it is, because you and I will talk and you'll say, I'm going to give them a book and it's going to be maybe this and this, but you're writing this one still, and you know what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty good sometimes at there are very few things that I'm good at compartmentalizing. I'm sort of an overlapping thought process person. But if I get an idea for a book, it's usually like something, I'll get this scene in my brain, And then all of a sudden those characters sort of form within that scene. And I will write it out. If it's the middle of the night, I'll email myself from my phone in bed, you know, and just send myself an email and wake up the next morning and be so thankful that I did, because I have no memory of it, kind of thing. But, you know, I come up with the basic, like, conflict, and then from there I can set that aside because I've written that down. Once it's written down, I know I can keep it, and I'll just set up a file for that book.
Once you write it down, do you also then remember it? If I don't write it down, I don't remember.
Yeah, not
but if
anymore.
I write it down, I don't even need to look at it, because then I remember it.
Not anymore. There used to be a time when I could remember like everything. Yeah. Now it's like, nope.
It's like, what was that great idea I had last night? And then I don't remember.
And it's gone. And when I first started writing, I was a classic new writer. I'll remember. You know, I had this great brainstorm of a night. I'll remember it later. And my husband would be like, you sure you don't want to write it down? Because he's a write it down kind of guy. Yeah. And it's like, you sure you don't want to write it down? I'm like, no, it'll be fine.
I could see him also like, you sure you don't want to do that?
Yeah. And I'll just tell him, I'll say, no, I'll remember. It's fine. And then later I'll be like, I knew there was something I was going to try to remember, but I have no idea. And it's literally like, no idea. Not even it's like there's nothing there. It's like the thought never entered my brain in the first place. So I've learned that lesson the hard way.
It's just amazing to me that if I write it down, I remember it, and I don't even need to look at it.
Exactly.
But if I don't write it down, I don't. So there's like this big connect between your brain and your hand.
You're a visual thinker. You have to and sometimes it's kind of almost like a muscle memory too, because you've seen it, you've written it. It's like two forms of memory, you know, and now you can kind of set it aside. But I do go back and look at it, because sometimes I think of something really clever the first time, and it doesn't necessarily come to me the second time. And I'm like, oh man, I know I had something really like funny here, and now I can't remember what it was, and now I don't want to use it anymore because it's boring. Yeah. You know? There's nothing funny about it.
The last question here is, how much research do you do? But I think we sort of covered that, because I know you've got this awesome family, but do you spend as much time on researching like beforehand as planning out the book, or?
Well, yes and no.
Or do you like research when you realize it? Yeah. I like to find it when I need it in a book. Otherwise, I spend too much time.
Yeah, I do that. I mean, obviously, when I'm talking about character careers and things like that, they're specific. I'll do some research, but a lot of my research I do as I go. I like if I find like if I want to send them to Colombia, I'll be like, okay, where in Colombia can I send them? Where I'll look at the Google Maps and I'll see where there's a lot of jungle area or whatever, you know, and then I'll hone in on that area, and then I'll make up a name for that area, you know, like I did in this last book. But no, I mean, that's I write books about topics I already enjoy, you know, so I don't have to do a ton of research. Because let's face it, we can be. It's not lazy. It's just like, okay, well, I already know about this, so I'm gonna incorporate that. I have great resources within my family that I can tap into. My sister-in-law is a former FBI. She was with the FBI. She and my brother were both in the FBI for 30 years, and I made a hero after her because she has this specialty that she is like a world-renowned interview specialist. Like, she can sit in a room with somebody and interview them and tell by their...
You wrote that character? Okay, yeah.
That's my sister-in-law. Okay. Tell by their verbal cues, and not even... I mean, yes, there's the whole thing about the muscle, whatever, and the eye thing, whatever. But her specialty is... like words that people use when they're being interviewed. I like to say interrogated because it's romantic suspense. It's way more fun that way. But she always is like, it's interviewing, Marie. We don't interrogate people. I was like, in my books, you're interrogating people. Yeah. But she'll say, you know, she gave me all this information about, you know, she gave me papers that she's written and had published about it. And I skim those. They're really kind of technical sometimes. I'm like, you know, that looks good. And I highlight the fun stuff, the fun language. And I'll incorporate that. That's the kind of research I do. Sitting and talking to my brother about his job with the HRT canine, as an HRT canine handler. I mean, I could sit and talk to him about that all day.
So that doesn't even count as research.
Right.
It's
a conversation.
Learning interesting things.
And it's funny because he's the oldest, so he keeps everything to himself. He's very modest. He's very, you know, and I'm asking him, I'm like, so tell me some of the stuff that you've been in on. He's like, Waco, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, how did I not know this? I mean, I was there. I was like, but he just doesn't talk about that stuff. So he put his dog through the paces. That was research. His dog Zip it was a Czech shepherd that he worked with, took all of his commands in Czech. So he wrote out this whole list of Czech commands and gave me the pronunciation and what they meant. I put those all in the book.
Why are the shepherds always from somewhere else? I don't understand.
You want to know
that.
why? There's a reason for that.
I thought there might be.
Those countries over there, they breed these dogs specifically for this, and then government agencies here will go over. There's like 2 guys in this country that will go over to the third, all those third block countries over there, Czechoslovakia, Russia, and they will go to these breeders, and they will put them through. They have a set of skills that they put them through, and they're bred specifically for, different, I
mean, we can't breed them specifically here?
Well, the problem is the bloodlines there are pure.
Okay.
You bring stuff to America, everything gets gobbledygooked up. Apparently, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the
melting
dog,
pot.
But yes, exactly. But this dog, honest to gosh, you guys, this dog was amazing. There was something this dog did. I think I told somebody about this yesterday, and I had to put it in the book. All of his commands are in Czech except for one, and it's the quiet command. And I told my brother, okay, I need to see this. Well, he had this 3 acres, and he threw the ball, and this dog chased it, and he comes back, and he says, and he sat down in front of my brother, and my brother looked at this dog and went quiet. And this dog, honest to God, I'm not making this up, drew his tongue back in, closed his mouth, and stopped panting.
Aww.
And went radio silent. And I'm just looking at him like, no way. Make him do it again. This poor dog. And he did. The dog loved it. These dogs have so much energy.
And
he
personality.
Did it again. You better believe I put that in my book. Absolutely put it in my book, because I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Yeah. They were going in to do a breach, and he told his dog quiet, and it just. Yeah, but he walked me through how they breach a building, what they use, the language, all of that, and I put all of it in the book because.
Well, and so everyone understands they protect and love their dog like they would a human partner.
Oh yeah,
they're very protective.
But there is a line. They're very much, and the dogs live with them. Mm-hmm. They have the rooms specially built, like his basement. He had a daylight basement. The entire basement was a giant crate for this dog.
Yeah.
But they also know there's a line there. They are just a dog. It's kind of, yes, they take them home and they love these dogs and they spend their entire lives with these dogs. But they are a dog, and they are a tool that they use to do their job. And that's why they will send a dog in first or whatever. But I know. I was like, well, okay, that changes my opinion of you.
Yeah.
but and he's been on teams. There are always 2 canine handlers and on every team that they go send out, and because they have a backup in case one gets killed. And that happened when he did one of his missions. The other handler's dog was killed. So his job as this backup was to not only provide the dog for backup, but to manage the care and processing of the other dog. I mean, the logistics when they do stuff like that is unbelievable. That I did not put in the book because that would be like yawn fest. But yeah, that's my research. Is I just get to talk to people that are in the business.
So as we wrap this up, when is the next book going to be out?
The next one, Dangerous Obsession. It's the first book in the spinoff series. It's my goal is by the end of the year.
And is that going to be Lucas and Helene?
That is Viking and Marigold.
That's Viking. I keep mixing them up.
Yeah. And she still doesn't want to have anything to do with them
at
the beginning. But she will.
She will. Yeah.
She will. Yeah.
Well, she had a rough background, so she's still good.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell she's already a little bit interested. She's just denying
Well,
it.
in the book, he's real big. He's like 6'8". Think Brock O'Hearn for anybody who knows who he is. Big guy, looks like a Viking, and he was raised by a very religious grandmother after his parents were killed in a car accident. So he's very sweet, doesn't cuss, and he's assigned to be her bodyguard. And she doesn't want a bodyguard because she had an abusive ex, and she can take care of herself, and she's not given any choice. And she keeps calling him things like Sasquatch and Grizzly Adams and, Bigfoot and all these different things. So, she's trying to keep him at arm's length, but that won't last long.
It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. And that'll be out, you think, when?
I can't give you a date, but definitely before the end of the year.
Awesome. Okay. Very good. I'm
not good at giving dates because then I'm like, although I probably should. That's an external deadline that I have to stick to, but whatever.
Well, I look forward to reading it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for being here, TJ. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. I had fun. Thanks for having me. It was fun.